But we need to talk about Russia, how everyone thinks Russia is this big, scary superpower. They say, come on, Bruce, how can you say that? Russia's got all those nuclear weapons. That's exactly what Putin wants you to see and wants you to think. Hey there, Patriots. It's Bruce Rutherford coming to you from my favorite spot, the beautiful Westwood Golf Club right here in Houston, Texas. What I've got to share with you today, well, it's so important we're going to need 2 episodes to break it down properly. But we need to talk about Russia, or more specifically, how everyone thinks Russia is this big, scary superpower. The reality is something completely different. You know what happens whenever I bring this up? People look at me and they look at me like I've lost my mind. They say, come on, Bruce, how can you say that? Russia's got all those nuclear weapons. They could destroy the whole world. They've got this huge army. We see them on the news every day. And look, I get that. That's exactly what Putin wants you to see and wants you to think. But let me tell you something that's going to knock your socks off. Russia's entire economy, everything they make, everything they do, is smaller than what we produce right here in the state of Texas. In the state of Texas, we produce more than the entire nation of Russia. Yeah, you heard that right. Our one-star state has a bigger economy than Putin's whole empire. $2.4 trillion for Texas compared to Russia's $1.8 trillion. And trust me, folks, that's just the beginning of the story. Now, why does this matter? You're probably wondering why any of this matters to you. Well, let me tell you exactly why this affects you and your family right now. You see, Russia's out there bankrolling terrorist organizations that want to destroy America, that want to kill Americans. Last year alone, and these numbers are going to shock you, they pumped over $3.5 billion into Iran. And what's Iran doing with all that money? Well, they're funding groups that are attacking us, our allies, and messing with shipping in the Red Sea. Those high prices you're seeing at the grocery store, well, here's something that most folks don't realize. About 15% of all the world's trade has to go through the Red Sea. And Putin's buddies, they're making that harder every day. They know it's making it harder for us at the grocery store and at the kitchen table. Now, and some of you watching, you've paid an even higher price. We've lost American service members because of these proxy wars Putin is supporting. And that's not just some number I'm throwing at you. That's somebody's son or daughter, somebody's mom or dad. Let me paint you a picture of Russia itself. They love bragging about how they are the largest country in the world, they say. And, you know, they do take up about 11% of all the land mass on the earth. That's pretty impressive. Well, here's what they don't tell you in their travel brochures. More than half of that land is completely uninhabitable, because the weather is so bad and the soil is frozen tundra that is either so hard you can't break through it, or in the summertime it's so soft you sink up to your knees. You couldn't pay people to live there. That's why there's still nobody living there. You want to know how cold it gets? We're talking 40 degrees below zero. That's so cold it's the same in both Fahrenheit and Celsius. I mean, that's cold. The average January temperature across Siberia would freeze the antifreeze in your car. Yeah, that's this massive size of their country, and their terrible winters did stop Napoleon and Hitler back in the day. But now it's more like a giant empty freezer they can't even use. Now let me tell you something that's really mind-blowing. Russia is literally dying. I'm not being dramatic here. Their population just hit the lowest point in their modern history, 143.5 million people. And get this, they're losing one person every 30 seconds to death or out-migration. Do the math with me. That's nearly 3,000 people gone every single day. The numbers here are just staggering, folks. In the last decade alone, they've lost 8 million people. 8 million. And there's something that'll really make you think. They've got 10.5 million more women than men. That's quite a disparity. You heard that right. 10.5 more women than men. Russian men are dying so young, they're only making it to to about 60. The women live about 10 years longer. But what good is that doing them? They're living in poverty. You want to know why their men are dying so young? Well, here's the brutal truth. About 200,000 Russians die from alcohol abuse every year, and 80% of those are men. But it gets even worse. For every woman of childbearing age, they're only having about 1.4 children on average. Now you need 2.1 children per woman just to keep pace with population growth, just to keep the population steady. So they're steadily falling behind in their birth rate versus their death rate and their outmigration. Now let's talk money for a minute. Remember when I told you that their economy is smaller than that of Texas? Well, they're actually behind Italy and South Korea too. Their economic growth over the last decade is a pathetic 1.2%. I mean, that's practically standing still. And folks, the numbers just keep getting worse. Their inflation is running about 8 to 9% right now. And their interest rate, sit down, hang on to your hat, their interest rates today are 21%. Can you imagine trying to buy a house in Russia with a 21% interest rate? Their currency, the ruble, has lost more than half its value since 2019. That's in the last 5 years. Foreign companies are turning away from Russia. They're so fast that they've lost 96% of outside investment since the year 2020. So actually, since the year 2022. Even their big moneymaker, oil and gas, well, that's down 47% in just 1 year. Now, a lot of that's due to our sanctions and our efforts to curtail their sales. Now, what about that mighty Russian military? Okay, I know you're all thinking they are pretty damn big, they're pretty damn ruthless. Well, let me tell you what's really happening in the Ukraine. And these numbers are going to shock you. Since the Ukraine war started, Russia's lost over 600,000 soldiers. 600,000. And that's been verified by a number of intelligence sources. And of those, 120,000 are dead. The balance are wounded and unable to return to battle. Now that's in less than 2 years. You know what's even more shocking? They're losing about 2,000 soldiers every single day in the current conflict. Their equipment losses are just as bad. You know how many tanks they've lost? 2,700 tanks. That's 90% of what they had before the war even started. They've lost 7,000 armored vehicles and at least 2 full squadrons of aircraft. Now understand, the Russians can only produce about 25 tanks, new tanks, a month. So they're losing tanks at a much greater rate than they're able to reproduce them. And that's true of their armored vehicles, that's true of their aircraft. And get this, they're spending $30 billion just paying the families of dead soldiers, giving them bonuses in order to keep the Russian population on their side for the war. $30 billion. I mean, it's a lot of money for their size economy. But what about a nuclear reality check? Now, we used to talk about what really gives Russians its seat at the big table. It's those nuclear weapons. Yes, they claim they've got about 5,900 warheads, more than the United States' 5,200. But let me tell you something interesting. Back during the Cold War, Stalin claimed he had hundreds of warheads. We found out later through intelligence and defectors and spies that he was bluffing about that he only had 4. And many experts think that the Russians are still playing that same game today, that they're still bluffing. And don't get me wrong, their nukes are dangerous. I mean, let's face it, a thermonuclear war between us and Russia would probably destroy the planet. They're way more powerful. Our bombs today are way more powerful than those that hit Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Here's what keeps military experts up at night. How many of the Russian warheads actually work? Think about it. We've seen their tanks breaking down. We've seen their planes falling out of the sky. We've seen their communications fail. What makes anyone think that they're maintaining those nuclear weapons any better? Between poor maintenance, drunk silo crews, and outdated communication systems, well, you can see why a lot of the intelligence communities of the West, the French, the Brits, the United States, the Israelis, the Australians, while we have doubts that those nuclear weapons, a lot of those nuclear weapons will really work. Now let's talk about Vladimir Putin himself. He's 72 years old now, and he's been running the show since 1999. He's starting to show visible signs of Parkinson's disease. You want to know how he stays in power? He's running what might be the biggest criminal enterprise in history. Experts think that Putin's personal wealth could be around $200 billion. His buddies, that we call them oligarchs, have hidden about $800 billion offshore. That's money stolen straight from the Russian people. Right now, he's got over 500 political prisoners sitting in Russian jails. And get this, at least 24 people who crossed Putin have died under what they call mysterious circumstances. Committed suicide jumping off the balcony from their hotel room, got radioactive poisoning in a park in London. Now, where I come from, we call these episodes murder. Patriots, I know this is a lot to take in, and we're just getting started. Next time, I'm going to lay out exactly what we need to do about this. I've got a plan, a very specific, detailed plan that could change everything about how we deal with Putin's Russia. And I emphasize Putin. He's the key. You're not going to want to miss it, because I'm going to show you exactly how we can win this new Cold War, how we can win this thing, not just in Ukraine, but over the whole game. We'll talk about it and what real victory looks like and why it matters to every single American family. Think about everything that we've talked about today. Share it with your family and your friends. Make sure you join me in the next time when we lay out exactly how we can beat Putin at his own game. Until then, God bless you, and God bless America.